This is a new part of the podcast, the start to a new series. Every 5 weeks, my husband and my partner of 26 years will be joining me here for an honest conversation about the moments that brought us where we are in our marriage today. Since the dress and the tux, we've worn so many titles. From being pastors to renovating endless houses and entrepreneurs to traveling the world and to being brand new parents. And now somehow we are parents to grown kids. Well, 3 out of 4. It's crazy how time just flies by. Anyways, over the years, there have been so many quiet shifts and major turns, moments that didn't always feel like life-changing at the time, but definitely changed everything in the long run. And that's what we're here to talk about. The pivots, the patterns, the ridiculous, and the real. The messy, funny, and sometimes painful, but always honest stories that brought us here. Welcome to the Naked Podcast. This is us. Well, welcome back to the Naked Podcast. I am here with the love of my life. And we are continuing on in this series, the Us series, where we decide together on a time in our life when everything changed in our marriage. And from there, we separately write about our perspective of that journey and what it looked like from our view. And then together, we read it here for the first time to each other. So we're here with a new piece. Thank you for joining me again.
Of course.
I'm excited. I don't know if you get to go first again or if I get to go first this time or how we're supposed to like rock, paper, scissors this or something. Oh. I was slow.
Okay. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. I'll go.
Oh, he's going to go. All right. Get it out of the way.
Yep.
All right. I'm excited.
I called it the gap.
The gap. Hey, you know what?
Can we start
Let's
again?
break it up. What are you drinking? Let's just give you a restart.
Pineapple sparkling water.
That is your favorite drink. I'm drinking a chai, an iced chai with oat milk. Cheers.
Cheers.
So good. All right. So I guess you get to go first because you won the rock, paper, scissors.
The gap. You were an unstoppable force, constantly going, endlessly doing good. And it felt like you were picking up speed every day. Mom of 4, running a house, homeschooling, running girls group, church cafe, moms and tots, evolved spa, children's Christmas productions, arranging hospital visits, overseeing adoptions, family trips, church meeting, counseling women, counseling marriages, endless phone calls, and being a support to neighbors with addicted children. And all this stuff was just what I could come up with off the top of my head that I knew about. Your kindness was endless. You have a gift/curse, a magnet of compassion. People breaking into tears in dollar store lineups, you holding space for them as they crumble and spill their life troubles onto you. Not an uncommon occurrence. And you did it all with grace. You are the strongest person I know. That is what made your breakdown so shocking. Watching your grief-wrapped body crumble under this unsustainable weight of all the good you were doing, all the good you were carrying. It was as surprising as it was heartbreaking. I don't think any of us knew the depths that you were going to sink into as you collapsed. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. The signs of erosion were there, but none of us were looking for them. And some of us were possibly even ignoring them. The thing that really kicked off the entire episode was a massive slowdown. It was a riding accident. Amongst all the other things you were doing, you managed to find a way to take the girls to a local farm where they would end up riding horses multiple times a week. It's also one of the few things you did for yourself. Riding seemed to give you a sense of freedom, no cares, no worries. Then came the moment when a normal afternoon ride would end with you being thrown from a horse and becoming immobilized with an ankle injury. Your busy life of 1,000 things a day coming to an abrupt stop. Looking back now, I think this initial slowdown was the catalyzing event that ultimately became the death of the superhuman version of you. You managed to maintain most of your involvement from the couch by arranging people to keep things going. Phone call after phone call, orchestrating everything so all the good things could keep running and the people wouldn't be disappointed or forgotten. Probably more draining than doing it yourself. Because no one is you, and it required dozens of people to be organized and to fill the gap of the superhuman Janelle. All this while our world had a fifth child in it. Somebody else's child. A baby. For over 8 months, we had a baby with us that was locked in a custody battle between two teens that couldn't agree upon adoption. So, with no definitive end in sight, this baby sat in limbo. And so did we. The baby story alone is loaded with intricate complexities, an emotional spiderweb that could be a naked session of its own. Police, guns, lawyers, courtrooms, threatening letters, stalking grandparents, parental visits, and so much more. All on top of caring for a newborn. And our own 4 children. From the couch, with a broken ankle. In the end, for the benefit of our family and for our own sanity, we decided to let go of the child and prioritize our own recovery. But we didn't know it would get darker before it got lighter. Right on the heels of letting go, we went to meet my friends in California at a gathering. Rob Bell was hosting another 2-day session. I had gone several times before and had a crew of friends, amazing friends, that were waiting for me. They were a lifeline for me through those years. It was your first time, and I'm sure you wanted nothing but to have it over with so we could go do some relaxing. When Kristen, Rob's wife, told the story of Rob's breakdown, I think that's when the dam broke. Someone openly talking about the unmentionable and was making it permissible. It gave you permission to stop running, to turn and face what was stalking you for so long. All the busy momentum was gone. There was nothing left to keep you going. So, you let go. Parker Palmer talks about being chased by something, where there's something behind you that's calling your name. It's wanting you to stop, but you don't, so it yells louder. It's not going away, so you quicken your pace. It pursues, now screaming while you are in full stride trying to get away. You continue to move faster, trying to distance yourself from it. From the back, it keeps calling to you to stop. Soon, it starts throwing things at you to get your attention. You still run faster and faster until one day it has no choice but to drop a bomb on you. I remember a few days later, in the hotel by an outdoor patio fire, asking you something. I asked, "What does your ideal Monday look like?" You took a long time to answer. But when you did, you described a day of ease, peace, a normal place, a normal pace, simplicity. I think for the first time in years, you had thought about your own well-being and had a spark of hope for even the possibility of an ideal Monday and Tuesday and every day, possibly. So you gave yourself permission to find it. That's when we entered the gap. In between here and there is a gap. The distance and the depth of the gap depends on how long you've been running from it, trying to avoid it. I remember shortly after going to church one Sunday morning, a few weeks into the gap. As we pulled into the parking lot, you started to go pale. You became panicky. I could literally see your heartbeat in your neck. I took your pulse. It was erratic and rapid. You said, "I don't think I can go in there." So we turned around and I took you home. I think that was the last time you entered that building. With us living in a fishbowl, with every move and every word being observed, you, suddenly absent from the public eye, naturally caused questions and concerns. People would stop and tell me that they're praying for you, or that they're thinking about you. They would encourage me to bring you to church events and prayer meetings. They wanted you to be healed. They cared. But how do you explain to someone that their place of healing is the place that made you sick? So, you didn't go anywhere. You would sit for hours with the blinds drawn, in the dark, in the living room. Occasionally listen to music, drinking tea, reading a few sentences from a book, but mostly stillness and existing. Some people would come and sit alongside you. They would rub your feet, cry with you, occasionally talk, but mostly just be. It made me aware that some people are equipped for the darkness. Some understand the mud. Others, very well-meaning people, would come and go, people who cared a lot. They would offer us some advice. They would open the blinds. They would send encouraging songs or drop off religious books. Things they felt would help this come to an end. But they didn't understand. You didn't need to come out of this. You needed to go through this to come up on the other side of the gap. We went to see counselors. We ended up counseling the counselors. You had the ability to feel the heartbeat and energy of those that visited you. I think it was involuntary, but you would absorb their energy and anxiety. So it became our job to guard the environment and protect the space. I took your phone to gatekeep the outside contact, defending that space fiercely. We had no timeline, no agenda, no desire to make things go away before it had done the work. It felt like death at times, and that's probably because it was. We were losing the unstoppable superhuman, the one who did everything because of need and perceived expectations, the one who would plan, set up, lead, clean up for every event, the one who would do anything to help people feel like they belonged and had a place, even though she had no place, the one who deemed that every moment be filled with helping anyone and everyone except herself, the one everyone loved. That's the one that had to go. She had to die before she killed you. And at this point, it was a coin toss as to who would survive. I remember wondering every day on my drive home if you would still exist when I got there. But what I didn't know is you were paving a path for me to do the same. Soon after, I would leave my position and unknowingly, at the time, a large chunk of my identity. It was a death of my own kind. But I knew how to do that because I saw someone else do it first. The feeling is not really one of growth, but one of loss. A loss of who you are, a loss of your identity, a death of being a certain person or a certain way. In the words of Paulo Coelho, author of The Alchemist, maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you. So you can be you, the one you were meant to be in the first place. There's an old Turkish saying, if you truly love someone, you love them twice. The first time is quick, it's butterflies. It's you drawn to their smile, their laugh, their personality. It's the way they say your name. It's the version of them that's easy to love, the one they show the world. Time passes, masks come off. You start to notice the parts they hide, their anxiety, their trust issues, their overcompensation for things, the little habits that come from deep scars. That's when people leave. But if you stay, and you still choose them after all the mess, when it's not romantic, when it's not easy, that's when the second love begins. The steady kind. The I see you, and I'm not going anywhere kind. Because I love you after the hardest parts show up isn't a feeling. It's a promise. And we've gone through the ugly. I still love you. Thank you for leading the way.
Not sure what to say. I think there's a lot that I forgot.
Naturally.
When I'm hearing you write that, a lot of things I forgot about myself. Like who I was. I do remember people wanting me to come out of it. Like, how long is this going to take for you? Like, open the blinds. And like, it just felt like so much noise. But I think I forgot who I was in that season. Like, I know I did a lot of things, but when I started to, reading off the things that I was doing, it's like I was recounting and remembering all of the things that, like, the different people that were from all over, like, our street, like, to our neighbors, to our church, to distant friends, to, like, the phone never stopped ringing, you know, like, just, I know we had a revolving door, but, like, I forgot the faces behind those footsteps, you know? And so I think it's just remembering as you're reading that. I'm like, wow, like,
It was insane.
it was insane. It was really insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, yeah, I was just in it. And it's hard to see. I think, like, you know, one of the things I realized when I was writing my piece was like, yeah, like there's no returning to who you were. And in fact, I think there's almost, like, for me, almost like a parts of me that's forgotten who I was. Because I remember coming out of it and feeling like I needed to, like I was going to do something, and I did one thing in a day. Like, when I came out of that season, it was like, I'm going to do one thing today. And I remember somebody saying, like the rest of the whole day is still available, and being like, oh, but no, but like, I don't think I can take on more than one thing today.
And you couldn't.
No, and
you had adrenal fatigue. You were
yeah,
spent from years and years and years of overexertion.
Yeah. I think I forgot about that girl. I think it's like that's very far from, even as I wrote my own, like, I didn't spend as much time revisiting that. It's almost like it's a bit blurry. I think that's why I get a bit emotional. It's just like, wow, yeah, like, it's really a death of what people thought who you were and what you were capable of doing. I remember somebody once saying to me, how do you do it all? Like, I was tolling in 4 kids to Mom and Tots one morning, and I was like, I just do it. I don't know, and with a smile on my face, and inside, exactly what you said, I was a place for so many people, but I didn't have a safe place for myself. I couldn't just be like, I can't fucking do this.
Yeah.
I can't do this. I can't admit to you that I can't do this.
One of the things Rob said at one point, he's like, you never attend something you lead. You just aren't. You're leading it. You're not attending it. And so when you're doing all of these things, it like left no place, no room, no energy, no time to be. You'd carve out a couple weeks a year to go on a vacation that we'd somehow scrap together, or people would donate enough air miles, or, you know, something. And that would be about it. The rest of the time was go. Then you add a 5th child, which is insane on its own.
That I surprised you with.
You came home with the children and police. It's a whole thing. Anyway, that's
another chapter. All right, well, let's have a quick drink and I'll read.
Sure.
Hang tight. We'll be back after this short break. Season 2 is finally here. When I first started the Naked podcast, I honestly had no idea where it would lead us. I just knew that honest conversations really do matter. Somewhere along the line, I realized that the best parts often happen after we stop recording, the quieter moments, the ones you don't plan for. So this season, I'm inviting my guests to stay a little longer for those conversations. I am so excited to share that the Naked podcast now has a Patreon, a space with extended episodes, written versions of my solo pieces, and a few of the things I am building just for you. If this show has moved you, made you feel seen, or just kept you company, I'd love for you to join me there. All the details are in the show notes, just a little invitation to stay a bit longer. As we take this short break, think about someone who might need this story in their ears today and pass it on. Now, let's get back into it. All right. Well, I guess it's my turn.
I guess it is.
I guess. All right. When I thought about writing this, I had no idea where to start. I felt quite scattered. The thought of finding the right place to begin, unsure I could dive into this chapter of life that really deserved an entire book. As I continued down the lane of reminiscing and remembering, I listened to music that took me back to that time, which only seemed to add more possible moments of entry. There is so much here. For days, this question sat in my mind with no clear direction in sight. And then I had a dream, a vivid, descriptive dream that played on repeat all night long. And that's when I knew. So I'll start by quoting Rob Bell. "We don't make a life change until we reach the absolute maximum level of pain that our mind, body, and soul is willing to endure." I will never forget when I heard these words. I was third row from the back, in a small room with about 100 people, most I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't want to be there. Truth is, I was churched out. For the past 12 years of my life, the front row had my name on it. Every Sunday morning, every Wednesday morning, and every Saturday evening, I was there. Well, we were all there. Our kids now 10, 8, 5, and 3. Not only were we all there, but by this time in our journey, it felt as though we had become the working limbs of the church. If the lights were on, so were we. A place we were on and smiling, always appearing okay within these walls. Despite the circumstances, whether we spent the morning drive frustrated and mad, which was pretty much irregular, or felt alone or worn out or didn't sleep because one of the kids were up or were financially maxed out yet again. Whatever it was put on hold when we arrived, ready to flip the switch, camera, lights, action kind of feeling. Out of the car. It's time to give, sing, preach, pray, hold, lead, do. I aimed to nail it the best way I could. An understanding for me that this was a place to give a hug and not one to receive. A position I couldn't have fully grasped without living it. On top of the church world and all the unspoken expectations I wrote for myself, we had just come to the end of a 10-month journey with a baby girl. Earlier that year, a teen mom in our church asked us to take her 4-day-old baby, but only for a couple of days. Quickly, we became more than just a loving home to a new babe. Our lives spun into a whirlwind of court dates, unannounced police invasions, consoling, supporting, family visitations, many we'd never met before. Strangers sat in our living room trying to bond with the baby they were bound to get custody of. The internal fight between the faces coming in and out of our house were palpable. Quickly, chaos collided with our lives in a way we'd never known before. After being a household of 7 for nearly a year, the time had come, the heartbreak of letting her go. A season that somehow also included me wearing an air cast due to a severe ankle injury that occurred while going horseback riding. I'd attempted to give my oldest daughter the best birthday, a way to say, "I'm sorry," to make up for all the days she had become my assistant. The one making bottles and cleaning and cooking and changing diapers, instead of being an 11-year-old child that she should have been. We were a shit show. 5 kids in tow, cute and usually well-dressed from head to toe, and always on the front row, but definitely still a shit show. So much piling on top of another. Our lives were bound to topple over. We were caught in the hum of our own tune, swiftly going, moving, doing. No time to get off the treadmill of life until that sunny, small-town morning in California, when we sat in a room where few people knew our names. There was no front row waiting for me. No one was looking at us. We took our seats unnoticed and did it quietly. This was the part of our California trip that I was least excited about. In fact, I couldn't wait for it to be over. When I woke up that morning, I thought about blowing it off, that church gathering, by staying in bed or just going for a walk. But it seemed like Gregg was most excited about this part of the trip. So I took a seat, air cast and all. Rob entered the room in a non-pastory way that I didn't expect. He was more casual, hands in his front pockets, no pulpit, just a guy talking, slowly pausing on words that I think he hoped would somehow have some sort of specific weight. Maybe for some it did, but my eyes followed him as he walked back and forth across the room, talking, none of which I was tracking or retaining. To me, it was just another service. Until his wife joined him. At this point, they both sat on high stools, slightly higher than the folding chairs that we were sitting on, creating like a togetherness feeling. They invited us into their living room kind of feeling, and were about to say something out loud for the first time. The gentle glances between them seemed like sweet whispers that only the two of them could hear. That's when they began to explain the moment. Rob began to recall the way it felt that day. He said, "We don't make a life change until we've reached the absolute maximum level of pain that our mind, body, and soul is willing to endure." That hit me. Whoa, what?
Without me having to ask him to repeat it, he, in his very raw way, said it again, only this time slower, giving each word its own platform. We don't make a life change until we've reached the absolute maximum level of pain that our mind, body, and soul is willing to endure. He went on to explain the day he laid on the floor in fetal position. In the endless purge of tears, the darkness, the shame, the fear, he wept and wept and wept. She explained that she was unsure if he would ever get up again, never mind take a stage. Their fingers intertwined and glancing whispers continued. I listened to him recount dark sobs that shook his body in disbelief that he'd hit the bottom, unsure if he would ever rise again. His words grew roots in my body as he explained the pain, the letting go, the relentless sobs that spewed from his belly. In my seat, third row from the back, I could feel what he was describing. My body tingled, tears slid down my face, something wanting to release, to spill out of me, but I had no idea what this meant. I sat there wishing I could wave a white flag, because in my mind, I was the frantic kindergarten at the back of the class, arms flailing, with a sudden stream of questions. What am I feeling? Is it possible I could drown in my own tears? What will others think? Will they be disappointed? Will the squeezing in my chest ever release? I had no idea what this was about to unleash, but I knew this was something giving me permission, somehow letting me be seen, letting me feel. Unknown to me that my busyness was the distance, a dam of sorts, keeping me from noticing the knocking, the alerting signs trying to reach me through the hustle of life. But now, in this room, I am still, hearing his thoughts as he explains the moments of being drenched in his own pain. I wanted to run to the front, scream and cry and crumble and sob. But these words shouted louder in my head. Don't stand up. You look like the crazy one. Do you really want to be the crazy lady in the service? Come on. Don't be the embarrassment of the room. Pull it together. The kindergarten urge, though, was more than any late pregnancy, baby on the bladder, have to pee kind of urge. I felt like I might explode out of my chair. The kettle was boiling. Something was coming out. I quickly moved my hands under my thighs so I wouldn't risk the sudden arm wave and give the urge of throwing myself at the feet of this man. Might sound crazy, but this was playing on repeat in my head. The only thing I could think of was sitting on my hands, hoping that the sticky moisture between me and the plastic white chair was enough deterrent to keep my hands from unknowingly shooting above my head. It worked. My eyes were glossy, but my outsides looked poised and contained, while my insides were melting, pleading to be seen. Tears crept to the corners of my eyes. Somewhere in me, I knew that this life I was living wasn't attainable, but nothing in me wanted to believe that this was true. For years, I'd brushed off the sudden panics, the tug-of-war yanking me from crumbling in the grocery aisle, the fear of people noticing my incapability to keep up, keep doing, keep being. What if I was deemed an unfit mom? Would my kids be taken away because I was stuck on the floor in a grocery store crying? These were genuine fears. I was more afraid of being found on a grocery store floor than any heart palpitation, eye twitch, or panicking pulse. Now here I am, third row from the back, watching my confidence fade, knowing that I can no longer command my body to keep doing, ignoring the alerting alarms that have been escorting me in and out of every day for way too long. Something broke when he said, the absolute maximum level of pain that your mind, body, and soul is willing to endure. I knew I had reached it. I was there. I had reached the maximum level of pain. The curated, beautiful, inspiring walls I had built melted like popsicles on a hot day. There was no turning back. The door was open and I fell in without knowing if this was a one-way trip. Tears streamed while others bubbled to my belly, to my chest, to my throat. The dam finally broke. I was tumbling, watching the pillars I had built shatter before my eyes. My world was crumbling and I was going down with it. I couldn't stop the tears, stop my racing mind. Panic pulsed through my veins. The shame of not being on the front row, not showing up like I had for every single service, polished to my best version of perfection, it haunted me. Mockery played on repeat. A Rolodex of faces flashed in my view. Nightmares about people that I love, waving their fingers in my face, questioning Where are you now? Their voices screaming in my head. You've let us down. Why have you let us down? We needed you. Come on. We needed you. You were such a disappointment. Can't you see people are depending on you? This could impact their faith. Do you realize this could impact their faith? What if they stop believing? Well, too late. You are such a disappointment. It never stopped. Day and night, continually playing on repeat. Trying to shake the unbearable natter, I shook my head with clumps of hair in my hand, leaving me with blonde just sitting in my hands. Still no silence. This went on for weeks and weeks, while words gushed like blood from a bullet wound. No amount of shaking or sleeping could stop the water hose of guilt. It had me in my heart, in my mind, in my back, in my toes, in the palms of my hands. All of me reeked in guilt and shame. I tried cold showers and hot showers too, but neither were enough to interrupt the fingers waving in my face. Everything becoming louder and louder. Colors, sounds, smells, all turned up to 11. The white trim around the doors, loud. The wind, loud. The orange IKEA cup sitting on the counter, loud. The smell of toast, loud. One loudness bumped into another and into another and another, burning the edges of my brain. The more I lived, the louder it became. Nowhere to escape when loudness is in you. Desperately exhausted in this search for the shut-off valve, while I was being swallowed by something so much bigger than me, I wanted silence, just a moment of quiet where everything stopped. I had no idea what day it was, or how long I'd been sitting on our red tufted leather couch, or how many days the kids had only eaten pancakes. But I was sure that by now the days had rolled into weeks, certain that I had missed more consecutive Sunday morning services than I had in my entire life. I had no answers. Detached from the outside world, turned off my phone, it was tucked in a sock drawer somewhere. I couldn't take any more noise. There was already so much right in front of me, and no one could reach me, and this was so unlike me. Few understood, while others were frustrated. Some were angry, and some were even hurt. Some felt pushed away. All of this drove the shameful voices louder in my head, pushing me further into the dark, driving the urge to run from my body, to turn off the unending noise. All I wanted was silence, but the noise only became more boisterous, pounding, throbbing. Day and night I tossed and turned between who I was and who I'd become. It tormented me. I was the predictable one, friendly, helpful, funny, easygoing, always available. Bake muffins for you kind of woman, watch your kids kind of woman, clean your house kind of woman, wipe your tears kind of woman. And now it's a feat just to walk across the room to get a glass of water. I sat on the edge of my bed, hoping that soon I'd wake up on the other side, where peace and angels roam, eternal sleep. Maybe that's the only way. Maybe that's when guilt will stop beating the back of my brain. Knowing my frailty, Gregg did what he could to protect our home from the outside noises bombarding through our front door. I don't know how many times he stood guard, filtering what and who was getting through to me, unsure if he'd done the right thing or not, but I imagine there were probably a few. What I do know is how his eyes held mine, reminding me that I was still there, still in me, gently tucking my untamed hairs behind my ears. Cradling my head, he'd kiss my forehead, placing his hand on my heart, feeling my next inhale. Each touch was a subtle resurrection. I never felt the questions that may have been swirling through his mind. There was no pressure, no hankering urge to be anything more. There was no push to get through it faster, no pulling me to their side, no questions, no shame, no expectations, just love. A constant, unending stream of love. Somehow he knew what I needed and how to give it. Guiding me into the warm water, he washed my body, laid out clean clothes, and brushed my knotted hair. He drew the drapes and lit the room with a candle glow instead of the bright lights. His way of being had a way of bringing me back down, where I could feel the earth beneath me again, where my feet touched the ground. It was in the way he held me in his eyes, how his body cradled mine, the way he combed my hair, the softness of his touch, the way he whispered, "Be still." In the mornings when I woke with his fingers softly grazing my arm, the way he touched me in the night and kissed my cheek. Love flowed freely in our home. Endless kindness from our kids, the way they loved, how they held my hand in theirs, curled up beside me, wrapped their arms around my waist, traced the freckles on my face. In some ways, I feel like her oldest, Lexi, was a lifeline, a little nurse that never left my side. She saw me in the gap when no one else was there. She wiped tears from my eyes. She ran a tight ship and kept them motivated with chores and filled their bellies with a constant flow of Costco pancakes. Day after day, their touch kept me returning, rising again, while Mumford & Sons spun on a record player, singing, "Awake, my soul, awake, my soul, awake, my soul." A spark that hadn't yet caught fire, but I could feel it churning in my bones. I knew I just needed more time to marinate in these words. Time. That's the wisdom my dad gave me in the early days of this. When I asked him, will I ever come out of this? He said, give it time, baby girl. Just give it time. So I did. Often I fell in and out of every day repeating their lyrics that wouldn't leave me. How fickle my heart, how woozy my eyes. I struggled to find any truth in your lies. And now my heart stumbles on things I don't know. My weakness I feel I must finally show. God was here, in the music, in tiny fingers, in the next breath, in the way he looked at me. In the words of Parker Palmer, a book that I could not put down after I read the title, Let Your Life Speak. This had become a guide, written with descriptive honesty. This man knew darkness, the shaming noise, the relentless pain. He also knew the light after the dark, the growth, the unstable footing, the great climb. He knew there was no such thing as him returning to who he was. This had changed him. He called it the awakening. The more I read it, the more light came in, so I continued to sip on his words. Some pages I couldn't leave. I read them over and over again until I stopped bathing in my own tears. These were monumental moments, the ones that kept me here. The uninterrupted calm that disrupted the sprint towards a final silence. Every little hand, every tiny finger that drew a line from one freckle to the next. Every word from Parker. Every time they sang, Awake My Soul. Every tousled hair he tucked. Every single one squeezed just a bit more helium out of my hovering body. Together, we tiptoed out of the darkness. Slowly, the disappointed screams became whispers and eventually faded into the void. Now I was coming up for air instead of inhaling swamp water. Everything was heightened. My skin felt tenderly fresh. I could feel the air in the room and how it moved when someone entered. The kind of sensitivity I imagine a baby feels when it takes its first breath. The cool air on the skin, uncomfortably tender. She feels touch, she hears, she smells, her senses going wild by the rush of everything all at once. I was the infant, feeling life like this for the first time. I hadn't left our four walls or opened the drapes. Without any awareness of time, I peered out the window, surprised that sunny, crisp September had now become snowy, cold December. So much had changed, not only in me, but also around me. Parker wrote a lot about seasons and how he's found some of the most powerful metaphors through the ever-changing months. He explains a metaphor best in his book. Our inward winters take many forms: failure, betrayal, depression, death. The winters will drive you crazy until you learn to get into them. We must enter boldly into the fears we are most wanting to avoid, or they will dominate our lives. I had come to understand that winter can only be avoided for so long, and then it will dominate. Winters aren't something to conquer. There's no one and done. It will come again, just like nature shows. I felt winter rise in the overwhelming, I can't go on days. I felt it in the shadows of shame. I felt myself run towards busyness and efforts to drown it all out. Few times I felt myself slipping towards familiar space, close to the edge, where I could almost hear the noise pounding the back of my head once again. It has taken years of learning to listen. But I no longer ignored the friend inside me, at least not for long. The one signaling, waving, tapping, alarming me through heart palpitations and eye twitches. I notice these. I hear the whispers, knowing that I must listen. change the course of my direction. Because 33-year-old me wasn't sure if the relentless sobs would ever stop, or if my hands would ever be without clumps of blonde. I was unsure if I'd ever get a chance to see their tiny hands stretch, their palms to fingers matching mine. Unsure if I would witness the smoothness of his skin becoming chamois creased, feeling the thinness of his lips pressed against mine. I knew I was near the end. I believe it's the reason I have grown a deep appreciation for nature, a feeling that is almost impossible to describe. My heart squeals. I usually clap or do a little dance. I always beam with the most childish joy and sometimes even kiss and most definitely examine the first green bud I see every spring. It wasn't until I was writing this that I noticed the parallel time between my enamored love for budding leaves and my great awakening. Parker's words grew much deeper than I ever knew, unconsciously aware that the green spiraling from branches has been a yearly reminder that I did emerge from winter. I did uncoil from the dark. My soul did awaken.
That's incredible. How do you do that? You know why I go first. That's no, that's believable.
That's how I felt after you read.
Jeez. Like you described it incredibly well. What it was like in the moment and to experience that from the inside. What's it like now visiting that?
It was interesting. So I sat here and played like Mumford and Sons, which was, I feel like was just playing on repeat.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was. I think it was, but it was literally being played on a record player. So I had to get off the couch to switch it around or, put it back on. And I listened to Cerebrellis, which is a song that I listened to that weekend that we were away in California.
Once Upon
Another Time.
Yeah.
And that's what writing does for me. It takes me, when I'm really in it, it really takes me back and I'm like living it again. I think this time when I was going back, I hadn't done this like this ever. There was a deep, I don't want to say sympathy, because I don't think that's the right word, but just this deep, kindness, this
compassion
for this girl. I was like so busy doing so many good things. And who's going to tell you to stop doing the good things? That's the thing about life. It's like not like we're drug dealers or something,
Wow.
As a whole, people really commended me on the things I was doing. It was like, just like, wow. And the more that I would do, the more that I would get handed and more responsibilities. I distinctly remember like sitting on the couch, 5 kids, the life is spinning. And somebody called me and asked me if I would arrange a clothing pickup for an orphanage or something. And I just felt like I was being raped. And this was before any of this. And I was just like, can't you see that I'm drowning here? I'm supposed to arrange a clothing pickup? It's just one more thing. But I think because I wore this mask, I expected more of myself than anybody else did.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know, revisiting that, I just felt this deep, compassion would be the right word for that younger me, being like, girl. And a lot of tears, like, as I sat with that, like, I just would be crying, and because I could feel her essence, her hopelessness, that true call for, like, just let me sit with the angels. Like, just somebody, just let me hover out of here. I can't. There's no shut off. There's no power switch. I need all of this noise to stop. And I think realizing how close I was, and not finding any help, like going to the counseling, seeing my doctor every week, filling out forms that were clear telltale signs that I wasn't doing well.
Yeah.
It was just reliving some of those things and feeling a deep, like a wisdom for her now. Like, there is a healthy Monday. Like, that it exists. I remember exactly when you described that. I was like, I remember that fire pit. I remember it so distinctly being like, I don't know. Like, what could a healthy Monday even look like? And you remember you're like, what is the weather like? What did you eat for breakfast? Like, it was everything, because I couldn't even picture that. Like, what would that mean? A healthy Monday.
Yeah, we had to baby step it from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up. What do you see? What's the weather? What's going on?
Yeah.
What do you do next? What's your
Yeah.
routine look like? What's like, we just walked through
Yeah.
the whole day of an ideal day.
Yeah.
Just a dream day.
Yeah.
And it was so simple.
Yeah. It's something I'd never experienced, I don't think, since we were in that position or since we had children. And it's interesting diving into that space and just really feeling her, like feeling 30-year-old me, what she was going through, the fears and the torment.
Holding you is like holding sand. And you're trying to, there's too much to hold and it's slipping through the cracks in the fingers, and you're trying to do whatever you can to balance it, to keep it, as much of it as you can. And it's still leaking through and finding its way through, or maybe water. Just remember that feeling. And it's just like, it just had to run its course. Hopefully there was something left.
I remember feeling like in that time, I don't think I brushed my hair, or I do think that you showered me every time I showered. I just don't think I would have showered without that. And it was like I was vacant. Like, I think, like, if I could see a picture of myself back then, it was like I was gray.
Hollow.
There's like, you're talking to me, but nothing's landing. And just tears are just flowing. Like, there's no turn off. I don't think there was any turn off until the noise in my mind became more distant. And I do remember like the kids coming and like touching my hand and being like, it'd be like if you saw a balloon and you just like put it back on the table. You know, I just felt like I was leaving, you know, and then those moments would just be like, oh no, you're here. It was like this.
Your feet touched the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
The tether.
There was the kindness. There was the people that knew how to sit with me without having any answers to their questions, because I didn't have any answers to my own.
That was the amazing thing, is knowing that some people were able to just sit in that. They were mudders. They could sit in the mud and not have to do anything. Just be. And that's it. And then those that had to have answers and had to have some sort of clear plan or 3-step process or whatever it was, they had their ideal. It just like had to protect and filter.
It made it really uncomfortable for people. I think you described it well, because I was like doing all these things. I was helping our neighbors with stuff that was going on in their lives, and I was cleaning people's houses, and I was watching people's children, you know. And so it was such a shock to people's system. It was like, I think people just, I mean, from the outside, now where I'm standing, I would be probably myself, be like, what is going on?
Yeah.
You know, and a sense of concern. It's like, is it the marriage? You know, is it?
Not that time.
Not that time. You know, like, what is it? You just, this deep sense of concern. And I think that it allowed for a lot of room for people to question. And those who you thought loved you the most sometimes questioned you the most.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest. there's no intention to hurt anybody. It was literally like, how do I stay alive?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you did the best that I needed in that moment. Just allowing me to sit in it and not be like panic, but like your kindness and just like kind of tucking me in at night, kissing me on my cheek and just being tender with me.
You mentioned another force that made this whole thing possible, that whole season possible. So we're going to make a little shift here for a second. Okay?
Hi, Mom.
Well, we've taken a bit of a shift in the podcast. We have a new guest that has appeared that I did not expect. So my husband has slipped out, and we're joined by my oldest, Alexis. And do you know anything about what's going on?
Well, I really thought Dad was going to take the lead on this one, but he wanted me to come and talk about...
My breakdown.
Yeah, that's what he wanted me to come and talk about.
Mm-hmm. So Dad and I started, I don't know if you even watch the podcasts or listen to it.
Yes, Mother.
We have the Us series that's a part of where we read.
Yeah, where you guys read each other things that you've, written.
Yeah. So I was reading my part which I talked about. I don't know if I should read that part for you to hear it. Okay. I'm talking about how the gentle, kind love in our home was the thing that brought me back down to the ground. And I explained it in here where it's like it was like my body was hovering. I'll read it to you.
Okay.
All right. Love flowed freely in our home. Endless kindness from our kids, the way they loved. How they held my hand in theirs, curled up beside me, wrapped their arms around my waist and traced the freckles on my face. In some ways, I felt like Lexi, our oldest, was a lifeline. The little nurse that never left my side. She saw me in the gaps when nobody else was there. She wiped tears from my eyes. She ran a tight ship and kept them motivated with chore charts and filled their bellies with endless Costco pancakes. Day after day, their touch kept me returning, rising again, while Mumford and Sons played on a record player, singing "Awake My Soul, Awake My Soul, Awake My Soul." A spark that hadn't yet caught fire, but I could feel it churning. I needed more time to marinate in these words. Time. That's the wisdom my dad gave me in the early days of this, when I asked him, will I ever come out of this? He said, give it time, baby girl, just give it time. So I did. Anyways, there's a part in here where I talk about how we're sitting, I don't know if you remember this time, we were sitting on the edge of my bed and I was like in hysteria and crying, and felt like I was trying to stop the noise in my head, and I had my fingers coiled around my hair, and it just was yanking on my hair. And you came in, and you just kind of did this to me, and you put your arms around me. Yeah. I remember it so distinctly. It was an early morning, and you were just there.
Yeah, I mean, Dad asked me to come and see if I was gonna write something, and I thought about it, but like, I told him, I was like, I honestly don't really remember a whole lot. Like, to be fair, it felt like just kind of like a big blur of
pancakes,
home time, that sort of a thing. And I believe it was like winter, correct?
It was September to December.
Yeah. So it was snowing and stuff, I think, at parts of it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I just remember making a lot of like, I don't know, like, yeah, pancakes, a lot of pancakes and hot chocolate. with whipped cream. Really healthy diet for all the kids. But my specialty for
a 10-year-old.
for 4 months of straight pancakes. Because Dad was working late hours, so he wouldn't even get home. And he wasn't, I don't think, cooking really at that point yet. So it was basically like probably full-on pancakes and eggs, maybe.
Yeah.
To be honest.
It probably was.
It sounds maybe dramatic, but I do really think that every meal was probably pancakes. Like full-on. Like not like, yeah, being dramatic. I think it was actually... We had like 6 of those giant bags from Costco in the garage, and yeah, we just plowed through those bags. Bit of water. Yeah. No, I don't remember a whole lot, to be honest. I remember kind of the beginning, and then Dad told me that you weren't going to have your phone anymore, so that's when he gave me my phone, actually, was at that same time, and I'd been asking for a phone, and I got it, but I also got it with a lot of responsibility of... If anyone's trying to get a hold of Mom, they're going to text you now, so you have to respond to them and tell them they can't come. It's like, I got this. But, yeah. So, I remember I got a phone, but I wasn't using it for the purpose I thought I was going to use it for exactly.
Just to call my friends.
Yeah, I wasn't calling my friends. I was, like, saying no to your friends calling if they could come over or whatever. I remember some people did come to the door, and you would be in your room, and I'd be like, no, like, my dad said you can't come in. I don't remember who it was exactly, but there was a couple people that came by, and I was like, no, like, only my grandparents and, like, 2 other people are allowed or something like that. Just turn them away. But, yeah. Don't remember a whole lot.
Sometimes I think back about that time, and I wonder, like, what part of you had to become, like, an adult. Like, I remember you messaging me when you first moved to Nicaragua and we were in Canada. And you were like laughing and giggling, like, oh man, I'm having so much fun. And just like, I could feel it in your voice. It's like, it was almost like I could hear like 9-year-old Lexi being like, you guys were hauling stuff on your moto and just like being silly. And you're like, I laugh so hard all the time. And I was thinking, as I've thought back about that over the years, I'm like, there is a time where it's like you became like the permanent assistant. It was like what Lexi said goes. Like nobody's questioning it. Nobody's like, because you had full reign for like 4 months.
Yeah.
And not only full reign, it was like you had a baton passed to you that you did not ask for.
Yeah. No, I do like agree that it was passed for sure. I think the first time I thought it was like quite serious, to be honest with you, because I was like, I feel like I was young. I knew probably to an aspect of what was going on, but how Dad had kind of explained it was like Mom's not feeling well, if that makes sense. But I heard him on the phone. I don't remember, or if it was on the phone or if he had told me one evening or something. And he had said something about like how he's afraid he's going to come home and he's not sure if you're going to be like alive. And I think in that moment it kind of hit me. I was like, oh, like, this is very, very, like, I knew it was serious for sure, but I didn't think it was like, I don't know, maybe because we were still so connected with the church, I felt like the word depressed was so like, you like just couldn't say it, if that makes sense. And even now I think we talk about it's like Mom's breakdown, but it really was like a mass, like very deep, deep depression is what it was. You know what I mean? And there's probably a different name for it possibly, but you know, I think in that moment I was like, oh, like this is definitely Dad's concerned that he's going to come home and like Mom won't be here, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I think at that point I took a little more maybe, not responsibility, but I was more of like careful eye on you to make sure that like what he said didn't like come true, you know? Yeah.
A responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry you had to do all those things.
Mom, you don't have to be sorry.
I know, but I am.
But you don't have to be sorry. It's okay. You did the hard thing, which was sitting through that for months on end. You didn't do the easy thing. You know? You did. And coming out of that was probably the hardest thing ever, because after you leave, you then have all these friendships that you had that are gone. People don't understand. You know what I mean? It's like, then you come out and people don't get it.
No. That was the hardest part, or one of the hardest parts.
I feel like being in it would have been definitely difficult, but the coming out of it probably would have been the harder part. I think.
Well, there's a newer you that returned. It's like evolving. You're never the same, right? It was just like, it was explaining to Dad, like even when I would be like, oh, I need to do I've got all these things I should get done, but I could only do one a day. And be like, man, I used to do like 20 things a day, you know? And now it was like one thing was more than enough. And I wasn't extending myself to hospital visits and singing on stage and moments of tots groups. It was like all that kind of just came to an end.
Yeah. And people probably didn't understand that at all in any way.
No. It's hard to understand something unless you've lived something.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a part in there where I write about how I was, took you for horseback riding, because I think in some small way, it was like my like apology. It wasn't just taking horseback riding. We went to 5 or 6 farms and knocked on their doors and was like, is there any way we could like rent a horse, or we had a horse someone was going to give us.
Yeah, and we were trying to find a place to board it.
Yes.
Yeah, and no one wanted us to.
Them. And this one guy was like, I don't want to board your horse, but you can ride the horses. But I mean, we went out for like probably 2 hours, cold turkey, knock on people's doors, being like, I just wanted to give you the option to like go horseback riding.
But that was before.
That was during. Oh, that was just before. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
That was just before. That was when we had baby Haley.
Yeah.
That was when we had baby Haley, and I was like trying to like, you were doing so much work already at that point. Like your doing work part came when you came back from your trip from Mama and Papa. And it was like, and we have 5 kids now. And you're like, I remember your face being like, what? 5 kids? Like there's 5 of us now? And you're like, you were pretty...
Like, she was not pregnant when I left.
Yeah.
And I haven't gone for 10 days. So there's no way.
You were pretty overwhelmed by that. And then that just kind of snowballed from that 10-month journey with the baby all the way through to like a little bit of a break there, and then full out breakdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes I think about that with you, is that it's like yes, it happened and it's what it was, but I do feel like part of you didn't get to be a kid. There was a season where you didn't get to be a kid because you took that like, you were my nurse, and in some ways you were my lifeline, and you took that so seriously that even when we were traveling, like you were just in charge of like who was standing where at the border lines and things like that. Like just like you took charge serious, you know? And it was like an interruption to just being a kid.
Yeah, but like, I feel like I had that role so young though. It wasn't the 4 months, you know what I mean?
Yes, you always were like the oldest of 4, but that's when it really kind of like the baby situation.
I think, yeah, with baby Haley, I think definitely with that, because once we went horseback riding, you like really injured your ankle, so then
it really ramped it up.
But I was also excited. I remember being like, oh, like I was excited in the beginning, and then I signed myself up for a lot more than I realized. I was like, no, Mom, I'm gonna do all the nighttime feeds. I got this.
I know, you did.
And then I set all the alarms, and then I was like, oh, this is a little bit more than I thought.
You were doing the 3 a.m. feeds because I couldn't make a bottle and go downstairs with my cats and stuff.
Yeah, but I was like, don't worry, Mom. Look at all my alarms I have set. It's fine. I think I was excited about it. I mean, if I wasn't capable of it, I wouldn't have done it. So I don't think you have to feel bad.
Well, I don't know. I just, it's like, I don't know if I can change how I feel. It's just like, it was a lot for you. It was a lot for anybody. Even if you were a grown adult, to take on that responsibility is a lot.
But I think it happened at a really good time. You know, I don't really remember anything about it. I feel like the kids, I think, had fun. Just watching probably How to Train Your Dragon 7 times a day and their pancakes, to be honest. I remember aspects, but I think like it's just a huge blur of like, well, it was like basically COVID in a way. The kids were we did not leave the house.
I know.
Like we did not. They went outside and played. I remember getting really annoyed with them having to put their snowsuits on all the time. But I mean, Yeah, you don't have to feel bad though. Like, I had a childhood. I definitely did have a childhood. I maybe had some more responsibilities from age 10 on, but that's not bad. It's not wrong. It just happened.
Well, thank you.
But no, when someone's like, I don't know, I see this thing that they say like in relationships, there's always like, not 100%, but when it needs to be running in a certain way, everyone just gives what they have, right? And so you'd given so much to us for so long that you were running at like negative, so I had to put in a lot more positive to make up for it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone just like makes sure that they can get it to a place where it's functioning.
Yeah.
So it's functioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were there for like 6 years. Like then at that point, yeah, I might have some resentment, but like 4 months isn't that long. To be honest, like in the grand scheme of my whole life, like 4 months is not
Yeah.
an incredibly long period of time.
But it changed our lives, changed our family. It changed the way we did things going forward from that point on.
Yeah.
We were different. We didn't commit to things. We were having dinners together. We were cooking together. It was like an entirely new beginning to who we were as a family.
Mm-hmm.
After we got through that.
That's where we bought the table.
Yeah, we bought a table that was like, for the first time, we never had a table in our house. We just had an island that we could kind of pass food around at. And we eventually, after that, bought a table a few months later and remember starting to cook as a family, all being in the kitchen together and like you guys chopping food together and buying groceries together. And like, it was a very different rhythm and peace in our home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it definitely all did change after that. It's like you're a little caterpillar going in for hibernation to come out as a new person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of had to do that first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think once you were, able to do more, you did. And I think one of the things on your list maybe was just to make dinner every day. That might have been our big goal for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turned into dinners all the time.
Yeah.
But not as much packaged foods and salads. More like
Not as much pancakes.
whole meals. Yeah, not as much pancakes.
Yeah.
Art therapy Wednesdays.
That's when we started doing church at home, and you guys each took your own Wednesday,
Oh, yeah.
and you guys would come and display how you wanted to demonstrate what that looked like. Sometimes it was like writing what lights you up on a candle, and we would light the whole table up with candles, and I think it was a connection point too, because what it did is it allowed you guys to demonstrate how you saw God or how you saw love or how you saw something beautiful. Like it was like, I remember Ellie bringing down all her stuffed animals and putting them all on the countertop and being like, okay, everybody pick your stuffed animal that you think best resembles you. And she's 4. And then she had made these like she took papers and cut them and folded them in half. Like, and you need to write in there what makes you so special. And then she drew pictures in her little booklet and we all wrote I'm unique because of this. I'm unique because of this. I think that's what makes you so unique was what she said. And it was like, this was her 4-year-old self being like, and that's church. What makes you unique? And it was like so cute and sweet. It was just like these little moments of connection because we hadn't really had connection. I mean, we sat on the front row together, but barely ever had meals together. And it was just like 12 years of going strong.
I was going to say, was there a specific church one that Maxime remembers the most?
The garbage one.
Mm-hmm. When we put like 500 Post-it notes all over the garbage bags in our community.
So the garbage men were reading it in the morning. It was all like gratefulness and things like that.
Yeah, like you're amazing, or like we put like at least 500 of them out in the community. We got up went out in the evening and then again first thing in the morning, and we recorded it coming out of our window around because he came around. He's like looking around, like where are these coming from? They're bright yellow Post-it notes taped with red marker, I think, taped to the garbage bags. And it was like, yeah, that was one of my most memorable ones too, I think. Just, it was like a knitting. It was like we started to knit our family back like together in unique ways. Like doing things like that before that time was never a thing.
No. I don't think the kids will really remember that even, that like the time before that, like, because I was only 10, you know, and I barely remember a lot that happened. I feel like I don't think Ellie will remember.
No, she was only 3 and 4 when that
Yeah, there's no way.
But yeah, I was listening to this podcast the other day and they're saying the way you parent your first child to where you parent your last child is so different. Because you're different.
I agree with that.
Right? Like you're different, they're different. Like your finances are different, your relationship with your spouse is different, your relationship with your mental health is different. Like all of these things are different. And so it creates, like you can't possibly parent the same between in that 7-year span. It's bound to be different. Anyways, I don't know how we want to conclude this. This is like a very guest appearance. I didn't know that was happening. Just took a little
I want to surprise you.
left-hand turn.
I was surprised too. Dad's been trying to get me to do this and didn't tell me the date until Mikhail's like, don't interrupt Mom and Dad are in a podcast. I was like, I'm supposed to be literally in that podcast. What do you mean? I was like, I didn't know it was happening. Changed like 6 times. So, yep, little guest appearance.
Thanks for joining us. And thanks for being who you are and for being that support at such a young age. But just, you've always been that person. Even when you were in kindergarten, remember you would like be friends with your teacher and be like, tell me more about your life. And she's like, you know, Lexi's such a deep soul. She says it has such a heart for people that just need a friend or just need somebody. And you've always kind of been that person just from like a little 5-year-old. Just kind of who you are.
Heather's mom the other day, they're the people across the street, they have a baby. And I was like holding it and I like just grabbed like the baby pretty confidently, just like picked the baby up. His mom was like, you know how to hold a baby? I was like, I kept a baby alive.
At 10 years old?
At 10. Like, yeah, I know how to hold a baby. So, yeah, it gave me skills, Mom. It gave me skills. Mm-hmm. I now feel like I can go into being a mother pretty confident in some cases. Not in all, but in some. And, you know, made me a pretty good nanny. Pretty good watching kids and stuff. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Had no idea this was happening, but a really lovely little...
Well, you know, can't keep me away for too long. Start knocking on that bedroom door.
Okay, back to just the 2 of us. I did not expect that. I'm really intrigued to know what inspired you to ask her to come.
She was a huge part of it. It was a huge part of that season. The only way it could work is with who she was and what she was able to pull off as a 10, 11-year-old. Mm-hmm. That, like, you know, we'd get up, we'd put things aside. It wasn't just pancakes, there was other things. We'd put things aside, we'd cut up fruit, do stuff. And then there would be, like, I would just run through it with her. Like, what is going to happen today? And then we'd sort of go through it, and then she'd make up a bunch of stuff on her own just to keep everyone entertained, make sure you're okay. You know, I'd check in. The reason, like she mentioned, she got a phone is so that I could reach her.
Right.
And check in and make sure everything was going with the texts. All my texts got erased, but like from back then, just being able to like call and text and make sure everything's okay and going well. And then I'd go from one job to the next job and then home at night. And so it was just a mad cycle for a couple of months. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, wanted to have her on because she was a big part of it.
She was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More so than she lets on, and
yeah,
or more so than she remembers even.
Yeah.
So,
I sometimes have thought about people or talked to friends that have gone through something like deep depression or a breakdown of some sort, and I didn't really realize, I don't think at the time, I couldn't have possibly realized how pivotal she was in that season. A lot of people don't have that luxury of having that kind of a strength And even as a parent, I'm like, I think that part of me is like, did we do that wrong? You know, like, was it too, like, I kind of think even in this, I guess there's a bit of like, maybe a shadow of shame in that too. Be like, did we do that right? Was that okay? I mean, it is what it is, and we all are here. But for a young kid to be able to take on that kind of pressure and that kind of like weight and worry, you know, when as a kid you're supposed to be the one that gets to be the kid, that your parents hold your worries, not the other way around. So yeah, it's interesting putting this out there and just being like, as a listener, being like, what were you doing? You know, like, you should have been hospitalized, you know? But we did what we knew. We did the best we knew in that time. Yeah.
And you were being monitored. We were
Yeah.
doing visits to doctors and counselors, and it actually wasn't doing a lot. They were telling us we're doing all the right things and to keep doing what we're doing. And so it was what we knew how to do. I think more than anything, it was holding that space.
Yeah.
With no pressure.
Yeah.
And then just letting it run.
Mm-hmm. And there were some very pivotal people that came and visited that knew that space, that could sit with me in that, where I was safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They were on high rotation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
The death of a superhero.
Yeah. Right. Another one of those moments where everything changed, really changed.
Mm-hmm. Allowed us to become.
Mm-hmm.
Allowed us to become a family for once.
Yeah.
For real.
It was the beginning of being a family. It was like 10 years in is when we became a family.
Yeah.
That's when the outside chaos stopped, intruding in our home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
There's in Chronicles of Narnia, I can't remember which book it is, and some nerds out there will probably tell me, but there's a scene where one of the characters is been on Dragon Island and has become a dragon. And there's a process that it goes through of ripping itself apart. So the person within the dragon can come off. Like the dragon comes off and the person comes out. In the book, I think they did it in the movie once, but in the book it does it like 3 times of stripping away these layers and layers. And it talks about like the stinging pain of the water as this new body falls in. And when you were talking about being able to feel everything so highly, so sensitively when you were being reborn. Like you said, I think you said like a newborn baby. Like you could feel everything on your skin. And it just reminded me of like that, like when C.S. Lewis wrote that, of like the death of the previous self and the stripping away, the painful process of stripping it away over and over and over again so that something more sensitive can emerge in the true self. It's a lot of bloody, hard work.
It was.
Well done.
I did it with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love the part when you said about the first love. And the second time you...
Oh, the Turkish phrase?
Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, there's that like butterflies, you meet that person, you fall in love, and then there's that falling in love, and I think that's the thing that I felt the most in that time was just that, there was not a doubt in your eyes that you had me, and that you love me, even in all gray and broken and empty and vacant, like that you still saw me, and that's the thing that I think I could feel the goodness of me in your eyes.
That's back and forth. I'm glad in the moment I was strong enough to be gentle.
You were.
Because not always does it line up that someone can be strong while somebody else has the freedom to go through whatever they're going through. Sometimes there isn't that wonderful space where that can happen. So I'm glad it worked.
I'm very grateful.
Glad we had that.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Thank you. I love you.
Love you too.
You're my favorite. All right, we're going to cap this off. Thank you so much for joining us, for being here. We're going to dive into a couple questions that we like to do at the end. This is for our Patreon. So if you want to hear a little bit more about some pointed questions or random questions, head over to the Patreon, and you can hear just a little bit of the continuation of this conversation. But thank you so much for taking the time to be here, to hear our stories, to feel our vulnerability, to hear us with our quivering voices and tender words. This means a lot that people can be here, but more than that, it means something that we can share this with each other, and for our kids to see who we become and who we were. So that's it.
I want to thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to listen to the Naked Podcast. It honestly means so much. If there's something in the episode that has moved you, share it with someone who might need to hear it too. And if you haven't already, give us a follow and leave a review. It helps so much to keep the momentum and keep the show growing. For more conversations, reflections, and ways to stay connected, check out the link in the show notes. Until next time. If you would like to connect with us or possibly share your story, please contact us at nakedwithjanelle@gmail.com. That's nakedwithjanelle@gmail.com. Thanks so much.